one of the most important things that the research is showing is that one of the most remarkable things in association with fat loss and weight loss is associated with having a higher diversity of microbes in your gut, specifically bacteria. The higher the diversity, the lower your body weight and body fat percentage, the correlation. The problem is, here in the Western world, our diversity of our microbes is just like, we've got a lot of endangered species and a lot of things are extinct versus folks who are in more of a kind of an indigenous culture.
A plethora of fruits and vegetables and uniqueness, right?
Somewhere around 4 times as many different microbes, right? So take yours, multiply it times 4, the different species of microbes, all right? So in the Western world, our diversity is going down. And this is also associated with some of the problems we're seeing that we think it's just associated to, they don't have willpower, end of story.
Right.
But here in the United States, and I want people to really get this, we have an epidemic. And nobody's talking about this. And nobody's talking about this right now in association to the problems we're seeing. We have an epidemic of obesity. Over 200 million people here in this country right now are overweight or obese. All right?
What's the definition of obesity?
Obesity.
How much
this is
body fat or percentage?
Unfortunately, this is tied to some questionable metrics with BMI, because
Body
somebody
mass
can
index.
have a lot of muscle on their frame, but we're not talking about that. All right, we're talking about, we know what's happening here in the United States. And a recent study came out, this meta-analysis determined that about only 12% of United States citizens are metabolically healthy. All right, so we got over 200 million people who are overweight or obese.
How much body fat is overweight on a person? Or how much body fat percentage would that be?
It depends.
20%, 30%? What's the...
I mean, even these numbers, man, can be a little bit, for example, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're healthier because your body fat percentage is low.
Right.
Like I had a 4.6% body fat at one point. I was not healthy.
Right.
But just in general, guys can be somewhere in the ballpark of 12%, 15%. And that's still, but then it's just like the vanity aspect. Like I can't see my lines.
Yeah, exactly. Because right now I'm like 16%.
Yeah.
And I just checked.
But you're a healthy guy. Like this is what I'm saying. Like when I say that it depends on you, these numbers, we have a big problem with these numbers.
Yeah.
But I'm using the numbers as a leverage as far as with statistics to try to get our eyes open. But there's so much variance within that. Because again, some people would sell name their firstborn child Rumpelstiltskin, to have your body.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, we got to keep this stuff in context.
Sure.
Now,
okay.
200 million people in the United States
are obese.
Obese or overweight.
Yeah.
On top of that, over 130 million people in the United States have type 2 diabetes or prediabetes.
130?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. It's crazy. So diabetes or prediabetes. And on top of that, about 60% of the United States population has some degree of heart disease. Right now.
What does heart disease consist of? What are the types of heart disease in that category?
So this is such a diverse topic too, because even our definition of these things is a little skewed. Hardening of the arteries, for example. Like how does all this stuff work? But I want to point back to a really important point because I don't want this to go left unsaid. Some of my best friends are the top cardiovascular surgeon in the world or the top gastroenterologist in the United States. All right, these are my friends, colleagues, and they will tell you. So, top gastroenterologist, just talked with him recently. He was in school for 15 years. 15 years. And he shared with me he specializes in the treatment of systems associated with digesting your food. The systems
That's all he
and
does.
organs. But guess how much education he got on food?
1 month?
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Even a month versus 15 years of education, learning about food for 2 weeks. You treat organs that deal with food.
Right.
We have a big problem. So in the cardiovascular domain, same thing. Elective, right? And your heart is made of the food that you eat. Your arteries are made of the food that you eat. Your blood is made of the food that you eat. How do we not have an education on these things? You know, like our attention is so, the system itself, these are incredibly smart people. These are some of the best and brightest. But if you take a really smart person and you miseducate them or you teach them the wrong thing, they become world-class at doing the wrong thing. And we keep trying to treat symptoms.
Right.
We're treating the symptoms of not knowing how food creates all these things. So it is that deep. This is how powerful food is. You know, it becomes everything about you. The things you see in the mirror, how you feel, it's all based on food. You know, it's so powerful. So
what if, I'm talking about how to optimize the microbiome.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing you say it's the diversity of the whole foods that we should be eating. And in America specifically, we have very limited diversity of these whole foods, these vegetables, these fruits, these healthy fats and meats and nuts, I'm assuming. Is that what it is?
Yes.
It's having a diversity. And the more diverse we can have, the better our microbiome makeup will become.
Yeah. And in the book, I cite a brand new study that found that increasing your diversity in your fruits and vegetables inherently increases the diversity of your microbes. So this is a very simple thing we can do. Even if we're eating healthy, we tend to get caught in our little like food meal prep gone awry. You know what I mean? Like chicken, rice,
Yeah, same thing
broccoli,
every day.
chicken, rice, broccoli, you know? But I'm eating healthier compared to but what are you doing for your microbes? They need a diversity. And really the heart of the matter is, I've been talking about probiotics for 15 years.
Taking probiotics.
Yeah, not taking, but just the science of probiotics. And of course, that's one input. But you can take all the probiotics you want. They're not going to colonize if they don't have the food that they want. It's kind of like going to a party and you're hungry and they don't have snacks that you want. You're gonna have to leave there soon, hit Del Taco. You
That
know,
Taco
whatever.
Bell life, baby.
You know?
I've been to Taco Bell for 10 years.
Dude, I would get the 10 pack.
Oh, man. Back in St. Louis.
Yes.
Getting Taco Bell.
We've come a long way.
Steak and shake. Oh, man.
That's if you want to get fancy, you know? So here's the thing.
Man.
And it's so wonderful because, you know, when we get into these principles and how all of this stuff kind of fits together, this is a simple input, is increasing the diversity of the fruits and vegetables helps to create the preferred food choice or the prebiotics. So there's probiotics, prebiotics. Prebiotics are the food that the microbes want in order for them to stick around. So we're losing all of these species because they don't have their preferred food in our system anymore, all right? And then we have postbiotics. So we have pre, pro, and post. The postbiotics are basically the vitamins, minerals, scaphas, these short chain fatty acids, all the nutrients your bacteria create in you for you. It's a symbiotic relationship. And that's really the front line right now. It's like I said, the final frontier that we're studying.
Let me ask you a hypothetical question. Obviously, this would never happen, but I've asked this to different nutritionists and doctors and scientists who've come on. Hypothetically, you're only able to eat 5 foods for the rest of your life. Just say hypothetical. You're on an island, there's only 5 food groups there, or you're only able to choose 5 every day for the rest of your life. If you had to choose, what would those 5 foods be to try to optimize your hormones, your mitochondria, your microbiome, you know, everything to optimize? Obviously, it'd be very limited, but if you could only choose 5, and you get to choose 5 vitamins and supplements if you wanted to. So 5 foods, 5 vitamins. Obviously, it's hypothetical. But what would you say?
Louis, I don't know if anybody's ever done this on your show before, but I'm gonna have to plead the 5th. Like, I can't answer that question. It goes against everything, you know, and there are, you know, that if I had to choose like my 5 favorite or whatever, you know, I could do that, but it's really getting away from the urgency of us increasing our diversity of food. It's an urgent situation right now. And on top of that, I got to share this too. We go to the grocery store, it looks like there's all this different stuff to choose from. But the majority of foods that the average American eats are from the same 12 foods, just packaged up differently. Like most of those, like wheat, corn, soy, you know, sugar. Oranges made the top of the list too. Largely orange juice, you know, but we're just eating the same stuff, packaged up differently.
Over and over in different
wondering
ways.
why our gastrointestinal tract and our microbiome, so many species are becoming extinct. We're eating the same stuff. So, yeah.
It's becoming extinct because we're not eating more diversity.
Yes, diversity.
So it's why grow it, why plant it, why develop it if we're not eating it, essentially, right?
It's the way that this gets into the most important part of the book for me, which is the systems behind why we're eating the way that we're eating and how do we fix those systems. Our governments, unfortunately, a lot of our food policies are controlled by lobbyists who work for these major food companies. And our government, and I shared one of the studies in the book, which is, this should be really eye-opening for folks, provide government subsidies for processed food creation, like billions, hundreds of billions of dollars. And and the thing is just like, okay, does that actually correlate with worse health? And there was actually a study done looking at the people who consume the highest amount of these government subsidized foods had about a 40% greater incidence of being obese. So there's a direct link between what's being provided to our citizens. And it started off with good intentions, providing government subsidies to farmers, but now it's these big agricultural businesses that are growing the same genetically altered food crops that become the very basis of the human diet.
The foundation of our food, yeah.
And the fruits and vegetables aren't getting anything. And so this also leads to the reason it's so damn cheap for us to go to Taco Bell and get a whole damn taco.
For 99 cents.
Right. Not just one, but you get two for 99 cents.
I know, it's crazy,
right?
man.
2 for 99-cent tacos, and an avocado costs $4 or $3, and it falls off a damn tree. Right? How is that possible?
Yeah.
And it gets into how the money is managed and where money is being funneled. And it's being funneled into the processed food system.
So what would you say on a weekly basis are the types of foods you're eating in your house? Yeah. What do you eat then? What's the diversity of foods? If you're not eating 5, if you're eating 50, what are those foods? Those main foods for you?
Okay, so key word here, diversity.
Okay.
Diversity. And I hesitant to say because I don't want people to base on what I'm doing because they need to do what's best for them. And what we do is we go through all of the stuff that has some clinical efficacy, like actual peer-reviewed evidence to support how this food is effective in blank thing. So whether it's helping the diversity of your gut, whether it's helping to
mental performance.
Yeah, that. And also, since we're on the subject of metabolism still, I'll give you one of my favorite food groups and what I do on a regular basis. And this is highlighted in an incredible peer-reviewed study that found that the consumption of green leafy vegetables, everybody hears it, eat your veggie. Why? Now we know why. So what they found was that the consumption of non-starchy green leafy vegetables led to a direct increase in the production of our body's major satiety hormones, like GLP-1, leptin, right? So the things that control our satiety. Because that's one of the issues with any diet framework is you need to make sure that you're avoiding the thing, like I call these kind of 3 amigos of body fat growth. And one of them is hunger and managing your hunger hormones and neurotransmitters related to that. That's one of the things, so green leafy vegetables. And another study found that
to help with the metabolism.
Yeah, so they found that for every serving of vegetables that you have in a day correlated with a 1/3 reduction in waist circumference.
What's that mean?
So every serving of vegetable led to about 1/3 less fat being on your waist.
Really?
Yeah. Really fascinating. And then if we want to make the jump to the cognitive side.
What would be the top veggies, leafy greens?
There's so many. Diversity, man. Spinach, kale, bok choy.
All of it. Just get it all.
All of it. Diverse.
Now, is it cooked, raw in a salad? What's
both?
Really?
Diverse.
Doesn't matter.
And it also keeps things fresh and fun. And also, let me be clear about this too. When I'm talking about green leafy vegetables, you know this, man. Well, you might not remember. I didn't eat a salad until I was 25.
Yeah. It took me until about 25,
right, we
30.
had this conversation.
Maybe I was 30 when I got sweet greens. It was 30 in New York City.
Yeah, the Greatness Bowl.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think part of why I'm so good at this is that I was really, really messed up, and I just grew up in a culture where, this just wasn't a part of my reality. There's no way that I would eat a salad.
Right.
And so please understand, a big part of that is association and culture and environment. And we talk about in the book, but also if food tastes good, it makes it a whole lot easier. What if we make those vegetables taste phenomenal, right? And that's the thing that's missing oftentimes. And we also have this thing in our minds that if it tastes good, it's not healthy. There's like this little thing, like this can't be good for me. But it's actually, why do you think food tastes good? It tastes good for you to eat it. It encourages, we're hardwired to seek tasty things. But food manufacturers have leveraged that desire to eat tasty things to our detriment, you know? And so I talk about that food science and the science of flavor, because even flavors in foods are indicators of nutritional content if we were living in a natural way, right? So that we develop these flavor preferences based on, we might be deficient in selenium and omega-3s. So we have these flavor associations. We know, like, okay, I need to go and eat blank food. You know, I need to go and catch some fish because my body is wanting this thing. Now we just go to 7-Eleven.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, but we can take back control of these systems and recalibrate them. And I was going to share earlier, one of the things that I wanted to do was stack conditions. So when I give you this food, it's not just one thing it's good for. There's another side with the cognitive function side. And this was conducted by researchers at Rush University in Chicago. And what they did was they looked at folks who were beginning, you know, into their senior years, and actually looked at their brains and looked at their diets. And they found that folks who ate 2 or more servings of green leafy vegetables each day had brains that were about 11 years younger on average.
Shut up.
Yes.
This is why I was so stupid in school, because I say sugar all day. I never ate any vegetables.
Yeah.
Man.
Me too, man. I would get that personal pizza.
Oh, man.
And get the pretzel with cheese. And
that sounds amazing.
I dip the pretzel into the cheese and then dip the pizza into the cheese.
That sounds like my life.
Yeah. So I'm over there, game day, you know, like
Eating
the muscatoli dinner.
pasta.
When the offense is in, I'm doing my thing. When defense, I'm yawning, I'm tired. Like,
I was
you know.
so tired all the time.
Yeah.
Working out, practice, always yawning.
Yeah.
Never ate anything healthy.
Yeah.
I think I told you this when I went to Principia at the boarding school. There was a milk dispenser in our dorm. I was 13 years old. A 5-gallon milk dispenser.
What? A milk dispenser?
Milk dispenser. Not 2%, whole milk.
That whole milk. Yeah.
This is the cafeteria milk dispenser, you know what I'm talking about? You like pour
for
out,
the cereal.
They put the big bag in there, like big 5-gallon bag that you put in there, they cut it open, and then you open it up. I got them to move it into my room. And I swear to you, I would go through 5 gallons every week.
No, this is
Swear
crazy.
to you.
Are you
drink
serious?
it throughout the morning, drink it at night when I'm studying, drinking it all day. Because this is how I was conditioned as a kid. My dad would give me a glass of milk every night. It was just like, drink more milk.
Yeah, milk doesn't
commercials,
Yeah.
all this stuff. I had a 5-gallon dispenser for a year in my dorm, just drinking it all day. And I was like, man, why am I always tired? I can only imagine the quality of athlete I could have been had I learned nutrition when I was a teenager. Because I didn't eat anything quality.
Yeah.
Never.
That's crazy. Man, like, that's literally blowing my mind. You got them to move it into your room?
My room.
You're a freak.
Right next to my bed, just drinking it all day.
Wow, dude, that's crazy. And like you said, what could have been?
What could have been?
Same thing for me, you know. I ran a 4.540 when I was 15, you know.
Imagine eating healthy.
Dude, but it was that same
You'd be
season.
6 feet tall if you ate healthy.
In the same season, I was doing track practice, 200-meter time trial. And as I was coming off the curve into the straightaway, you know the story, my hip broke.
Ooh.
And my bones were so brittle. I was 5'9" in 8th grade. Like, I was towering. You know how you're in the back row? Yeah. And then everything just started to break down. Really? You know, my bones. And it wasn't until I was 20 when I got diagnosed with this degenerative bone disease, degenerative disc disease. So my spine was just deteriorating. And nobody stopped to ask, like, how could this happen to a 20-year-old kid or a 15-year-old kid just breaking his hip at track practice? And from there, my dreams of, you know, college football, everything started to become vanquished. I've got game films where I break away, like 39 sweep, I'm gone. I'm 5 yards from the end zone. Nobody's behind me. And then I start to fall, like breaking down, tearing muscles. Yeah, like I've got it on game films and I'm like limping into the end zone and falling down. It was a nightmare, man. And I couldn't stay on the field anymore because my body was just breaking down. And what I was exposed to is what's called standard of care, which standard of care means they gave me some NSAIDs, gave me some crutches, like you'll heal up. I did. But nobody asked, how is his bones breaking from running? And when this diagnosis happened, man, it was earth-shattering because I was always like this fit guy, like capable, and like now I can't even really walk right because of this pain from my spine that's going into my leg. And my physician at the time, he put the MRI up, and I was just like, okay, like, how do we fix this? You know, just working with the trainers and like, okay, what do we do to get back on the field, you know? And he's just like, pump your brakes, like, slow down, son. This is bad, you know, this is incurable. And he told me that I had the spine of an 80-year-old man.
Wow.
When I was 20, and not a healthy 80-year-old either, you know, like, shout out to Mark Sisson, you know.
Wow.
But
is he 80? He's like,
he's 70. I think he's 70 or 72 now. Maybe?
No. He's 60.
He's gotta be. No. I think he's in his 70s.
I think he's late 50s.
But he doesn't
60s.
and he's definitely not in his
70s?
50s. He's definitely he's
60.
at least in his 60s. I think he's 70.
I don't think he's 70. That's amazing if he looks that great at 70.
Yeah, but this is what's also possible. Even wherever he is, it's
he's
what's
a
possible.
freak. He's got a six-pack at 60-something or 7, whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was the opposite. I was what you would think about with the 80-year-old person breaking down and, you know, a lot of chronic pain. And, you know, he sent me on my way, and that was that. You know, he gave me some medication, prescribed bed rest. Now, I want to encourage anybody, if you ever get a diagnosis with something life-altering like this, do your best to get a second and or third opinion before taking any dramatic action. And I did. Unfortunately, it was the same thing. And it was until and by the way, for the next 2 years, every doctor that I saw told me bed rest. So I just kept doing nothing.
Sleeping, yeah.
Just sitting around
Isn't
playing
that the
video
worst
games.
thing you can do for yourself?
Not only was my spine beginning to atrophy in my hips and my bones, but now everything else is.
Muscles, everything.
Your
Your
body-
organs are not producing, they're not,
Your body works on this use it or lose it basis. So I'm literally just decaying, you know.
You're dying at 22.
Yeah, accelerating that process. And 2 years later, man, it was a little over 2 years. It's tough to talk about. Incredibly, I was in fear. I got into a place where I was scared to stand up because the pain, I would have to like walk very gingerly because I know like the sciatic nerve has to like hit and then I could walk normally, like a normal gait. And so I just decided not to get up because I was scared to.
Wow.
And being that I'm eating the food that I was eating at the time, what I call the tough diet, typical university food, I was made out of this.
Oh,
my body was made out of this, and I'm not moving now, so I gained so much weight.
Pretzels and cheese dip.
Yeah,
You
dude,
know?
I eat fast food every day. Not a day went by because it's cheap and tasty.
Tastes amazing.
Yeah. And so, but everything changed, and it was, I don't remember if it was that day or the day after, but I went to see the last physician because I had hope. And I had this chronic question going on in my mind all the time. Why me? Why won't somebody help me? Just like, but I didn't realize it. And our brains are really run on the questions that we ask. It's a reflexive thing. It's called instinctive elaboration because our brains are like a servo mechanism. Is even right now, we're exposed to trillions, hundreds and hundreds of trillions of bits of data and information that our brain has to filter and only present to us consciously the thing that we hold most important, right? Because even now, like you be focused on your toes, you know, and probably thought about your toes a little bit, you know, for people that are listening. But were your toes not existing before? They're there, but it's not a top priority. And so that servo mechanism is guided by the questions you ask. And so if I'm asking all the time, why me? Why this happened to me? Why won't anybody help me? My brain is just looking for a reason to affirm why my life sucks. And after I got that last diagnosis, he again gave me a new prescription, told me bed rest 2 years later, and sent me on my way.
Wow.
And he meant well, but I realized it was either that night or the next night that I'm by myself. They're not thinking about me. Even though they mean well, they are not walking in my shoes and dealing with the suffering. And it was the first time that I asked a different question. I asked, what can I do to feel better? What can I do to get healthy? It's the first time I ever looked at like, what can I actually do? Because I've been like, why won't somebody else help me? And it changed everything, man. That was the first night I slept through the night in like 2 years without drugs. And I woke up with just a renewed sense of purpose because I went to school. I was in the auditorium nutrition class.
Yeah.
But I got out of it because I hated it. I hated science, ironically, which
Now you love it.
science is my boo now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's the way that I was taught. It didn't really have an association. It didn't have that connective tissue.
Wow.
And I began to dive back into my training because I always did good in school. You know, I had, you know, straight A's, but I would get into trouble. You know, I would. I didn't enjoy the process of like learning science because it didn't stick. And so, asking a different question, I did the low-hanging fruit first, which was exercise. Like I just went and started like going on a cycle. You know, just got on a stationary bike at the gym. Just started pedaling. It was hard. The next week I started doing a little walking and just built up from there. The first thing I did was I did Slim Fast first.
Really?
Because that's the commercial.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, I gotta lose weight. A shake for breakfast, a shake for lunch, a sensible dinner.
Right.
But thank goodness I quickly transitioned out of that. And because of that question, somebody that I knew for 3 years at that time, she was somebody that I'd, kind of hung out with for a while, just hung out. Anyway, she was a chiropractor.
Wow.
Nice. She was older. She was like, 10 years older. And she took me to Wild Oats. I'd known her this whole time. We never went to Wild Oats. Yeah. Went to Wild Oats. I'd walk into this entirely different dimension. Like, I'm like, why is there grass sitting up there on the counter?
People to buy this and eat it.
And but there was this nutrition prescription book. It was this massive like nutritional Bible there. And I began to look at all this like peer-reviewed evidence on this nutrient working for this thing. And I was shocked that this stuff existed. I had no idea. And this goes to the conversation of exposure, So many people we're born into these conditions. When I was growing up, man, we were on WIEGHT. We, food stamp Christmas would come around, the 1st and 15th. And we even got food from, shelters and, these food pantries. And we didn't know that there was a difference with food. It's just stuff that you eat. And I just want stuff that tastes good. That was the end of the story. I didn't know that it mattered. I thought that if you want to be healthy, you exercise. Because I looked fit, but my body was made out of straight
crap.
Yeah.
Sugar, crap, processed food.
But going there, I started to then I went from Slim Fast to becoming a natural pill popper. All right, because now it's like all these isolated nutrients. But I quickly, thank goodness, again, transitioned out of that.
You mean supplements?
Yeah. Because, and not to say that supplements aren't helpful, especially the right ones, but it's still looking at food through this allopathic lens that I was taught in school, which is like a pill for this.
Yeah.
A pill for every ill.
Do you take supplements now?
Definitely not as many. And there's a reason why too, that we talk about in Eat Smarter, which it went from about 7% of all liver damage to about 20% in recent years being associated with supplements.
Shut up.
Overconsumption, yeah.
Wow.
It's real. Because your liver has to handle the processing of these isolated nutrients. Oftentimes, this is not a very regulated system either. Not to say supplements aren't good, but we're taking some people are taking 20, 30 different supplements a day.
So what happens when we take that many supplements a day consistently over time? It affects our liver?
So your liver is responsible for, number one, like drug metabolism. We have somewhere around 70% of the United States population is on prescription drugs. Your liver is handling that first and foremost. And also your liver is responsible for food metabolism, that interaction as well, which, man, the name, live-er, is responsible for you being alive, like massively. We can't survive without your liver.
There's only one liver, right? It's 2 kidneys, one liver.
Yeah. You got 2 eyes. There's some pirates out there.
You can have,
but
you can have 1 kidney and survive.
Yeah.
But there's only one
liver.
And
even with your liver, you can lose portion of your liver and grow it back.
No way.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It's regenerative, magical, seemingly magical.
How big is the liver?
It's pretty big. I mean, as far as the internal organs. But here's the crazy thing is that with it, again, I want to reiterate, it's not that supplements are bad, especially the right food-based supplements, especially, but isolated synthetic chemicals, right? So about 20% of hospitalizations from liver problems is associated with supplement consumption now.
No, come on.
Yeah.
From supplements, not prescription pills, but actual over-the-counter supplements.
Yeah.
20% of liver challenges in the hospitals are due to this?
Yeah.
How do they know it's based on supplements and not?
They just do an intake and look at what the person's consuming, So again, this type of science is still there's nuance there. But just for us to be aware that this exists, that hey, wait a minute, maybe I want to pump the brakes a little bit on taking all these pills. So this was game changer for me, man. I asked the question, okay, so I've got degenerative disc disease. My spinal disc have degenerated. I have 2 herniated discs. It causes me all this pain. What are they made of? I asked this simple question.
What are my discs made of?
What are they made of? What is my spine? What are my bones made of? My bones are so, my bone density is so low. What are they made of? We think of calcium.
Calcium is what we
right?
think of.
Because of the marketing. But there was like 20 other things that were as important, if not more important, for the formation of bones and our bone density.
Really?
That I had no idea about. Magnesium, even omega-3s that we think about in associating to like brain health. Omega-3s are needed for bone formation as well, all right? So I wasn't getting any of that stuff in my diet, so I started taking pills first, but then I was like...
Supplements or?
Supplements,
yeah.
So I asked, what foods are these things found in? And then I understood the seemingly magical aspect of food, which there are all these other things that are there too. These cofactors and biopotentiators. And the game-changing insight was that what have we been consuming the longest? This supplement is new. This drug is new. Humans, we have millions of years of evolution in relationship with eating foods that have supported our development. What do my genes expect me to eat? Where does it expect it to come from?
Food. From a concentrated pill supplement or from food?
Yeah. So I started to make my mandate then, 20 years ago, was food first. And that was a game changer. So once I did that, man, 6 weeks after that moment of decision and like revelation, the pain that I've been experiencing every day that had me in fear of standing up was gone.
Wow.
And I was scared. I was even more scared then because I felt like I'm gonna do something that's gonna happen. So I'm like freaking out, but I'm also like, let me just keep going with this. Let me keep going. And I was feeling so good. I lost about 18 pounds at that point, which is not typical, but I was like the skinny kid in my family for a while. And now like it just, those, you know, fat genes, these epigenetic influences turned on. So weight just came off of me. And the most wonderful part and why I'm sitting here today with my man, Lewis Howes, is my professors, students, you know, at the school, they saw me. And it wasn't like I looked like somebody just lost weight. It looked like somebody who was like really healthy and alive. Yeah. Because when I see my pictures of myself then, I look like freaking like Casper the Ghost.
Wow.
Like I look like a shell of myself. Like there's something missing. The light is not there. And so people started coming up to me. And the first person who like specifically asked me for help, she was somebody I went to high school with who ended up going to the college I was at. And she saw this transformation. She was like, hey, can you help me, you know, to do what you did? And I was like, absolutely. And so I was just like gonna like schedule time to like meet up with her. And then she was like, how much should I pay you? And like time froze.
You're like, wait a minute, I can make money helping people live better?
I had no idea it was a thing, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, $7? And that was the beginning, man. So then I went on to like certification for personal training, strength and conditioning coach, then, you know, graduating, shifting all my coursework like to biology and all those things, and then opening my clinical practice and working as a nutritionist for over a decade, man, and just seeing some amazing transformations. You know, we specifically work with a lot of folks with chronic diseases, you know, diabetes, heart disease, people coming in, they got blood sugars like 300, 400, they're on metformin, sometimes insulin. Oftentimes, somewhere around 80% of the time, we're able to normalize their blood sugar without medication, you know, working alongside with their physicians and, you know, but we did that by education because that's the thing that's not given to them. You know, nobody's telling them why. It's just like sugar's bad, okay, but I would reverse engineer it. I would like literally walk them through, here's how your body actually does this thing. Here's how diabetes is created. Here's how insulin resistance happened. And you could see the light come on in their eyes. And
it's proper education.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts then on fasting in general? Because I don't know if you've seen Dr. Jason Fung's work, the obesity code, the cancer code, where he's talking about fasting a lot to reverse type 2 diabetes in a lot of his patients. As part of the process, of part of the treatment plan, I guess, is adding fasting into your life.
Yeah.
How does that apply to things, to the hormones when we fast, whether it's a 1-day fast, 3-day fast? Yeah. How does it apply to our metabolism? Does it slow down our metabolism when we fast? Again, whether it's intermittent or 3 days, what does that do to the body?
Oh man, I could not put this in there because the data exists. And it's just, and I want to make this clear, I also have a protocol for if you don't want to fast and you just want to have your 3 square meals a day, you know, like But for all of us, if we can put our nutrition even into a 12-hour window, and that 12 hour of fasting, of not eating, which is just, that even includes your sleep time.
12-hour window of not eating, 8-hour window of eating.
Just say you finish your last meal at 8 o'clock, and then you sleep, you get a good night's sleep, you wake up the next day, you have your first meal at 8 a.m. Wow, let me tell you some of the things that can happen. Number one, we see a substantial increase in production of human growth hormone, right? Which is considered the quote youth hormone, it's associated with, healthy body composition, but also like cognitive development and especially in recovery, protection from illnesses and speed of recovery from injury and things like that. It just goes on and on and on. That's why kids have so much energy too. It's really tied to energy, right? HGH. But I know we talked about this before. I think of like Barry Bonds, and like, Jason Giambi, we being from St. Louis, Mark McGuire,
Exactly.
Big Mac. They named a highway after him, Highway 70. They took it back though.
They took it back down?
But so by having a little bit of fasting, that process is elicited and you produce more HGH, but also improvement in insulin sensitivity. Like we see marked results with that too. And one of the studies that I put into the book was so shocking for me that I could not talk about it. They had folks to consume essentially the same amount of calories, but once they partitioned it, all they did, they gave them this one restriction of like, okay, let's take this consumption of caloric, availability that we're giving you and put it into this 12-hour window. And then they saw increased weight loss simply by having the same amount of calories, but in this window instead, same amount of calories. And they also saw increased production of satiety hormones or normalization of like leptin and ghrelin. They saw biomarkers associated with longevity as well. So, and I can go on and on just by putting your nutrition into a window. And then there's so many different types of fasting too. And I can't talk about anything with efficacy or ethically without me doing it. So, man, that's part of what happened to me too, of going too far. I've tried all of them. Whatever diet framework I've done it. Raw food.
Yeah, everything. Vegan.
But I'll do it for like a year, 2 years, 3 years, and that change and I didn't know it at the time, of my microbiome and taking away certain foods that really, for myself personally, were associated with good health. By removing those prebiotics sources, like that can cause gut dysbiosis. And so I was dealing with that for a couple of years. And like I started to have all these food sensitivities that were rooted in this change in my microbiome. And so even my story of like, what did I do to fix this? Because it's like one of the biggest things growing right now is dysbiosis of gut bacteria. And you might not have stomach problems or digestive problems, but it might show up with migraines. It might show up as issues with your thyroid. It might show up with arthritis.
Interesting.
This is important because even our methods of testing, look, man, I'm just gonna say the thing nobody else is willing to say. Dude, like, honestly, man, we've gone through a lot of stuff today, but we don't know shit.
Yeah.
We don't know anything, man. Like, even the top virologist in the world knows less than a fraction of a percent about all the viruses there are and how they function. We don't know anything, but we act like we do. And it gives us a sense of certainty. We know so much more than we did, and that's the beautiful part too. Even our innovations in the last couple of decades have been amazing, but what have we done as a result? Like, we're not getting any healthier. The data exists, and part of this problem is that on average, when we have a peer-reviewed, even if it's a placebo-controlled, double-blind, like everything, gold standard of study, we get a result finding that, say, curcumin, active component in turmeric, has anti-angiogenesis properties, meaning it helps to cut off the blood supply to cancer cells and fat cells selectively.
Curcumin?
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll circle back to that. But we find that it's been proven. It takes on average from proof to being in clinical practice in medicine 17 years.
Wow.
We don't got that kind of time, Louis.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem, is that these studies are often designed and speaking to in this language of academia to sound smart to other people, instead of like, how can people take this information and use it in their lives? Because I don't have to wait 17 years to find out that this thing can help me. Hey, if you like this video, make sure to check out this video right here to up-level your health today. This isn't called sleep more, right? It's sleep smarter. And there are many people who sleep, 8 to 9 hours and they wake up feeling like straight up, hot garbage. You know what I'm saying?